Hi, welcome back. Today we are going to have just a little bit of makeup playtime and have some fun with chromes. In this video, we are going to be swatching and comparing, and I'm going to give you my initial thoughts on the newly released Elf Duochrome Liquid Eyeshadows, and I'm also going to provide some swatches of my new to me. I'm actually not sure if they're new or if they're just new to me. I think they're just new to me, of my new Sydney Grace Multichromes, which are, for me, my introduction to the brand. I am, in fact, wearing Sydney Grace in my eyes. I'm wearing Tiny Marvels, which was the late Mel Thompson's collaboration with Sydney Grace. Look at that. Also, just for the record, this is my makeup that I applied at like 6:20 in the morning. And right now it is 4:13 in the afternoon. The only thing I've reapplied in my face is my lip oil. But this is what my eyeshadow looks like almost 8 hours later. Just for the record. I will give you my thoughts on Sydney Grace after trying the formula and trying palettes and single shadows in a later video, but today our focus is the chromes. Mostly, I just want to show you some comparisons of liquid duochrome eyeshadows versus pressed duochrome eyeshadows from two completely different brands, just so that you can have a comparison point if you are tempted by the sparkly world of multichromes or duochromes, and you are trying to decide maybe which formulation is better for you, if affordable versions of duochrome shadows are worth the price, and of course, if the indie price point of multichromes is worth it, because a single eyeshadow can be a little bit pricey. So we will go over all of those things together, and of course the very important swatches, so that you have a reference point in my tan/medium deep skin tone for your reference. So I hope that this is interesting, entertaining, fun for you as it is for me. It's just a little bit of makeup playtime so that we can see some sparkly stuff. That's what I do in this channel. We look at sparkly things that give me joy, mostly makeup, but maybe other beautiful things that add some literal sparkle to our lives. Without further ado, we're gonna start with the Elf Liquid Duochrome Eyeshadows. So let's get into some details about the Elf Duochrome Liquid Eyeshadows. These were released maybe a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, a few weeks ago, but they are available on elfcosmetics.com. I will leave them linked in the description box if you want to try any of them. There are 3 shades, and I am ridiculous, so I bought all 3. They retail for $8 each. Elf describes these as a long-lasting duochrome liquid eyeshadow that shifts colors in the light for a metallic multi-dimensional eye look. Here are the 3 colors. Pretty standard presentation for a liquid eyeshadow, I would say. These remind me a little bit of the Natasha Denona Chromium liquid eyeshadows that she released a few years back. I feel like the presentation is a little bit similar, but not outside of the norm for what usually duochrome liquid eyeshadows look like as far as packaging goes. The packaging is kind of like that acrylic kind of plastic, and it does feel nice. Like, it doesn't feel cheap. It feels like somewhat durable plastic for what the product is. And again, they are liquid eyeshadows with duochrome finish. I see more than 2 shifts in some of the shades, and you guys can be the judges of that when you see the swatches. So I would even dare to say that some of these would fall on the category of maybe multichromes, but Elf advertises them as duochromes. So let me just show you the swatches, including swatches just by themselves in my arm, no eyeshadow primer, and then I will also show you swatches with primer right next to the no primer swatches, so that you can see how the shadows change depending on whether you provide an eye base or not. Let's get to that. So here you can see from left to right the 3 Elf Liquid Duochrome shadows without primer, and then the swatches closer to my watch band are the swatches with eyeshadow primer. For reference, I use the Cookie Prep Up eyeshadow primer, which is my go-to eyeshadow primer these days. And the swatches are in the same order of application as the first set of swatches. So Venus Envy, Cyber Pink, and Mermaids. So with the primer, what you do notice is that you can lay a base that is a little bit more opaque. You see that especially with Mermaids. Here you go. So the base with primer down is a little bit more opaque so that you get a bit more of a solid color, especially when you're looking at the shifts. Look down so that you can see better. I apologize for the angle and the low light. I'm trying to get the last little bit of daylight that I have today. But with primer, I see more of the green shift that Venus Envy has. And then I also see more of the gold shift in Cyber Pink when you look at the primer swatches. Whereas, for example, in the no primer swatch, I see more of the pink on Cyber Pink and more of the icy white in Venus Envy. And then I think that the more solid color of the three, I think, is Mermaids, is the one where you can see the shifts more clearly. But this is how they perform without primer, with primer. I would say that overall, they're not that difficult to layer. I would recommend trying to work with thin layers at a time and then building up, and trying to let those thin layers dry before you pile up the product, because the better it dries, the less likely it is for the eyeshadows to crease. That's gonna be especially important if you have mature eyelids or if you have hooded eyelids. So again, in the swatches without primer, we have Venus Envy, Cyber Pink, and Mermaids from left to right. And then the last three swatches with primer underneath are Venus Envy, Cyber Pink, and Mermaids. At this point in time, I've used all three shades of these Elf liquid eyeshadows in my eyes. Two I used during a school day, and then the other one I used on a shorter day, if I remember correctly. This was last week. And what I noticed in my wear test, I believe one day I used Cyber Pink without primer, and then the next day I used Mermaids with primer. The one that I used later on was Venus Envy. That's my apologies for the confusion. I have used them without primer, with primer. So what I can tell you wear-wise is that they wear really well. When you do start to see that they are starting to wear down, it does look very elegant. It doesn't look like just kind of chunks of liquid eyeshadow kind of peeling off and you see like these big patchy spots. That doesn't happen with these. I actually do think that they perform really well over the course of the day. They perform really well in my somewhat hooded eyelids. I do have some fold, and I did have to try to like flatten my eye as much as I could when I was applying. And like I mentioned during the swatches, apply thin layers and try to let them dry to make sure that they are drying as creaseless as possible. However, I do think that, you know, realistically, it's to be expected that liquid eyeshadow is going to crease because the eye moves, the eyelid moves. So it's normal that something like a liquid eyeshadow that is a little bit more flexible will crease. But I didn't see it creasing in a way that made my eye makeup look disheveled or undone or not elegant. So I really enjoyed my wear. And if you are trying to dip into the world of liquid eyeshadows, plus trying to dip into the world of shifty shadows, duochrome eyeshadows, I would say that this is a safe bet. I've really enjoyed using them, and this is one of those products from Elf that I don't think that is just good for the price. I think that it's just good. I would say, as a full disclosure, take my review with a grain of salt, because as far as I remember, this may be the first time I've ever used liquid eyeshadows, so I don't have another formula to compare it to in terms of wear time or how it works with other products, etc. So honestly, I bought them because they were affordable duochromes, and I was like, ooh, let's try them out. And again, liquid eyeshadows are a new formula for me, so I'm willing to try. Why not? So I've had a good experience so far. I will, of course, keep using them. The format and the fact that they are a fun metallic way to like switch up your makeup look make these travel friendly, which is very important for me. So I can definitely see myself including one of these on my travel bag, in one of my travel stashes, to use up for like a look when I want something like fun or special, like if I'm gonna go out or if I'm going to a dinner, something like that, or just for a night look in general. I will say this, for eyeshadows that are as shifty and metallic as they are very wearable in the everyday. I'm going to insert 2 of the pictures that I took of my looks last week for school. I'm a middle school teacher. So I wear daytime and my makeup is, I have fun with it because it's fun for my students and because I don't care. I need sparkle in my life, okay? Sometimes when you have to deal with that middle school audacity, you need sparkle in your life, okay? So yeah, I'll show up at 7:30 in the morning with my Multichromes on. Come for me, sure, okay? So I've worn them in the everyday, but like the first day that I tried that, the first day I tried Cyber Pink, I did kind of a thin layer just to see how wearable can I make this. And you can really do like a nice subtle look that would be maybe more appropriate for a more conservative or more subdued work environments if you still want some sparkle. So I'll definitely keep playing with these and maybe in a future speed reviews give you a few more of my thoughts as I try them in different climates, maybe with different primer formulas or even without primer, maybe just setting my eyelid with concealer or powder. But I would say this is a positive. I'm very happy to have them and I'm very happy to continue to play with them. So I would say give them a go. Maybe don't be as intense as me and don't buy the 3 shadows at once. Maybe choose your favorite and buy 1 at a time. I'm just saying, you don't have to be as intense as me, okay? But there are 3 shades, and again, they're all available on elfcosmetics.com, and I'll leave the link in the description box. They are in stock as of the recording of this video. Here's an additional shot, I apologize for the echo, of those swatches of the Elf Duochrome Liquid Eyeshadows in a lower light in my bathroom, so that you can see how the shifts change with lower light, and especially with Mermaids, you see more of that black base that it has. So if you really want to kind of accentuate that for like a more intense look, I would suggest maybe laying down a black matte eyeshadow, maybe something like Black as Black from Natasha Denona, which is a single and is also on her My Dream palette, to see what it brings out. Keep that in mind with Duochromes and Multichromes. Depending on the base that you lay down, the shift that shows more strongly is going to change. But here are just some lower light swatches so that you can see some of the sparkle in more detail than you would in natural light, and how some of the shifts change. All right, now we're gonna move on to my Sydney Grace Multichromes. I'm gonna show you again some swatches and how they look in my medium deep skin tone with primer, without primers. I got 3 of the Sydney Grace Multichromes in their recent restock sale. I got other eyeshadows, but I do want to pay tribute / my respects to the creator that led me to Sydney Grace, or that I learned about Sydney Grace from on that video, because I got the eyeshadows that she curated for Sydney Grace. So that'll be a subject of a separate video, and I'll give you more thoughts about how I get along with the Sydney Grace formula in those 2 formats. Today, we're dealing with the chromes. Today is just about the sparkles. So in their recent restock sale, that restock included some of their multichromes. So I picked up 3. I am now the proud owner of one of these magnetic eyeshadow palettes, branded for them. I wanted to get a bigger one for the other bigger bundle of single eyeshadows that I got, but they didn't have any. I'll show you what I ended up getting. It's from Amazon, but you can get these empty palettes on the Sydney Grace website. So I got it for the 3 multichromes, and here they are. My apologies for the mirror. So here are the 3 multichromes. I've used 1 in my eyes for like a work day look. The ones that I got are Time Warp, which is this green. I love like these greens with like purple and brownish shifts with like a black base. The shade Sponsored in the Jackie Aina palette from ABH is kind of like that, and is one of my favorite shades ever. I also got Multichrome number 2. I got Birthday Girl, which has, you know, pink, purple, silver shifts. This is a true multichrome, and this is the one that I wore a few days ago. And last but not least, I got Ripple Effect, which is, oh, there you go. You see it like kind of dirty gold there, but there's also a little bit of silver, and I see yellow and green and blue. Multichromes are magical. I love them so much. I'm keeping my eye out for the next Cliona sale. Ooh, because I will engage in tomfoolery when that one comes around, probably, because I've been eyeing that stained glass collection. I'm like, oh my God, I want them all. They're so beautiful. Angelica Nyqvist has a video swatching the entire stained glass collection from Cliona. If you want a reference of like what those multichromes look like, I'll leave that linked in the description box. Again, if you are new to multichromes, Cliona is supposed to be like the queen of multichromes, so it's an interesting reference point to get. But Sydney Grace also has a solid reputation with multichromes, so I decided to try these 3. They retail, I'm gonna say for somewhere around $14 or $15. I have a hard time remembering because I bought these on sale. They were part of the restock sale, but I will put the price down on the screen once I go back and check my sales receipt, so I can actually tell you how much I paid for each of these. And I know that that's like a point of contention for a lot of people, like, oh my God, it's a one eyeshadow, it's so expensive, blah, blah, blah. But like, you have to think about the fact that multichromes are more difficult to formulate. They have a base, and then they have other colors that have to interact well with each other. So they are not as simple to formulate as, say, a matte brown eyeshadow. I know that that's an extreme example, but it's important to keep that in mind when you may be tempted to like balk a little bit at how much one multichrome costs. And I mean, most multichromes are manufactured and sold by indie brands, so they have much less capacity to produce mass inventory. So that's also something to keep in mind. But let's actually see how these multichromes perform by looking at some swatches without primer and with primer. Let's get to it. So on top here, on this section of my arm, we have the swatches with eyeshadow primer, and same order, we have Time Warp, Ripple Effect, and Birthday Girl. I did make the mistake of laying down, I think, too much primer, but you do see that for the most part, you get similar levels of opacity, except with Time Warp, where I do feel like you get more opacity with primer than without primer. Here, the green is way more vibrant than here, but you still get both shades pretty strong, whether you apply primer or not. So it's really a matter of the effect that you want and how intense you want the multichrome to look. Similar with Ripple Effect, I personally don't see huge differences without primer and with primer. With Birthday Girl, same thing happens. I feel like you have very similar levels of opacity with primer and and without primer. So overall, I would say that for these multichromes, an eyeshadow primer is not necessary to get opacity and to get the shifts that you want. Again, the one situation where I would say you may need a base depending on the effect that you want is if you want a specific shift to show more or to shine more depending on the base that you apply. So when multichromes have black bases, then, you know, the black in them, the darker colors, the bolder colors are gonna shine more. I'm not an expert on multichromes, but depending on the base that you lay down, it does have an effect on how the shifts show and how they interact with light and all of that. Again, from the Sydney Grace shadows, the only one that I've used for like a full work day is Birthday Girl. I managed to lay it down in a way that it was like really wearable in my opinion. And the formula themselves it's a dream to work with. It's very easy to pick up with just your fingers or even a brush. Although I've only used these with my fingers, I've used other formulas from Sydney Grace already with brushes, but I haven't tried to lay these down with like a flat brush. I should try to do that and see what happens. But with your finger, you do get a lot of product, you do get good color payoff. And I mean, look at my wonky swatches and you can still get the fun right here, right? There we go. And these are wonky swatches, let's be honest. But hey, I'm a newbie, it's okay. It's okay. Sorry, I just can't stop showing you the shifts. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I love it so much. I love these. Okay, so again, the colors are Time Warp, Ripple Effect, and Birthday Girl from the Sydney Grace Multichromes. I will leave those linked in the description box, and if they are not available, I'll leave a note next to the link to let you know that it's out of stock. And then just keep an eye on Sydney Grace's socials for announcements about their next restock. They do restock their product periodically, and most importantly, I think their big sale is Christmas in July, which is their summer sale. So you may want to follow Sydney Grace on social media to keep an eye out for their sales, because spoiler alert, I'm very, very happy with their formula. And that's going to be it. I hope that you enjoyed this little comparison between two different formulas and two different brands, creating Duochromes Multichrome shadows so that we can have some shifty fun in our eyelids. Overall, I would say that one is not necessarily better than the other, and I don't think that comparing liquid eyeshadows to pressed eyeshadows or powder eyeshadows is a fair comparison, because they're completely different formulas. So it's really going to be a matter of personal preference and ability to work with makeup with confidence. I think that liquid eyeshadows are a whole other animal, so I maybe wouldn't recommend a liquid eyeshadow for beginners. But if what you're looking for is a one and done look, then a liquid eyeshadow could be your speed. But my suggestion is play around with it, give it a try. If it doesn't look good, you just take it off and you try again, or maybe try another day. It's not a big deal. It's makeup. It's just supposed to be fun. So if you found this little comparison and the swatches on my skin tone helpful, please consider giving this video a like so that it can be shown to other people that will find it helpful and entertaining and will have fun with the sparkly nature of these shadows. If you have not joined us here for our fun with makeup and beauty and sparkly things that give us joy, please consider subscribing. I will see you next time with a new video, and in the next couple of weeks, you should expect some more of my tomfoolery reflected in holiday purchases. I hope that you and I can have fun with that together. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.